You know there is a way of keeping all this in one place and available to you as and when you need it.
I really wish there was one, because the way these invoices grow legs and disappear.
I believe this is what you're looking for.
Now how did it get there?
Tabo! Do you know that with Efris, you can stay on track of all your business transactions and improve on your record keeping?
How so?
Kati tuliku computer with Efris. I just search using the fiscal document number and I retrieve the records I'm looking for. Bookkeeping becomes simple after that.
Kapo, awesome, yeah.
I began using URS Kakasa Solutions and now I'm in charge of my business, and you can as well.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Uganda Revenue Authority reminds all taxpayers to file their monthly returns and make all outstanding payments by the 15th of every month. Please comply to avoid penalties and interest associated with failure to file returns and payment of these taxes. For further clarifications, call us on our toll-free line 0800-117-000 or email us on services@ura.go.ug. Please ignore this message if you have already complied.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Kapo, you seem to be in a hurry. Where are you going to?
I'm gonna pay URA a visit.
Why would anyone visit URA? Of all places?
To know more about the Kakasa Business Solutions, namely digital tracking solution, the voluntary disclosure program and electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing solution, which have turned my business around. You know I need to be on top of my game to protect my empire. If you know, you know.
I too need to know what Kapo knows.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business. Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Wait, Abu, tunamaliliza. And what are you doing throwing papers all over the place?
I'm looking for an invoice for a sound system and cables that I received yesterday, but I can't find it.
You know there is a way of keeping all this in one place and available to you as and when you need it.
I really wish there was one, because the way these invoices grow legs and disappear.
I believe this is what you're looking for.
Now how did it get there?
Tabo! Do you know that with Efris, you can stay on track of all your business transactions and improve on your record keeping?
How so?
Kati tuli ku computer with Efris. I just search using the fiscal document number and I retrieve the records I'm looking for. Bookkeeping becomes simple after that.
Kapo, awesome, yeah.
I began using URS Kakasa Solutions and now I'm in charge of my business, and you can as well.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together. Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Uganda Revenue Authority reminds all taxpayers to file their monthly returns and make all outstanding payments by the 15th of every month. Please comply to avoid penalties and interest associated with failure to file returns and payment of these taxes. For further clarifications, call us on our toll-free line 0800-117-000 or email us on services@ura.go.ug. Please ignore this message if you have already complied.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Kapo, you seem to be in a hurry. Where are you going to?
I'm gonna pay URA a visit.
Why would anyone visit URA? Of all places?
To know more about the Kakasa Business Solutions, namely digital tracking solution, the voluntary disclosure program and electronic fiscal receipting, and invoicing solution, which have turned my business around. You know I need to be on top of my game to protect my empire. If you know, you know.
I too need to know what Kapo knows.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business. Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Wait, Abu. Tunamaliriza. And what are you doing throwing papers all over the place?
I'm looking for an invoice for a sound system and cables that I received yesterday, but I can't find it.
You know there is a way of keeping all this in one place and available to you as and when you need it.
I really wish there was one, because the way these invoices grow legs and disappear.
I believe this is what you're looking for.
Now how did it get there?
Tabo! Do you know that with Efris, you can stay on track of all your business transactions and improve on your record keeping?
How so?
Kati tuli ku computer with Efris. I just search using the fiscal document number and I retrieve the records I'm looking for. Bookkeeping becomes simple after that.
Kapo, awesome, yeah.
I began using URS Kakasa Solutions and now I'm in charge of my business, and you can as well.
Kakasa, be sure you are in charge of your business.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Good morning to our viewers. Thank you for joining us. Today we have really changed the time a little bit, but hopefully you're still with us. Jotham Seranga speaking to you today. And today is a special day because we are having our gurus in return filing and in taxation. However, our deadlines are really closing in for filing our returns. And today we are going to be viewing or reviewing some of the things that we really to take into consideration as we prepare to file our returns. My goal today is to give you, is to shed more light in things that we may not have understood in the previous webinars in regards to return filing. And today we are going to have Joweria and Hafsa, and they are really going to walk us through the journey of return filing. However, today we are going to be focusing on the provisional income tax return filings, and I pray that we are able to understand. Please feel free to push in all the questions that you feel you may not have understood something. Keep the questions coming in. These people are really ready to answer those questions. You're most welcome, Joweria, and you're most welcome, Hafsa.
Thank you.
To start with, Hafsa, what is a provisional income return, income tax return?
Thank you, Jotham. To our viewers out there, to anybody who is in business, before you even talk about a provisional return, the journey starts at registration. Once you intend to do business or have started business, what we expect is you to register. That means you have started the journey in your doing business, and you have started the journey of a client whom I will expect tax from in the event that you will have some income that surpasses a threshold. Then ideally that is where the whole story starts. But as you do the registration, you are going to start your business by keeping records, because these records will inform this return I am waiting for at the end of it all. And once they inform the return I am waiting for, that is when we are going to speak about the provisional return. So when we are moving our year of income, let me imagine we have the default accounting year, which is 1st July up to 30th June. We basically look at certain time zones when we expect the provisional to come through. And ideally, when I'm speaking about individuals in business who actually registered, I expect you to push in your provisional by the 30th of September.
Which is
not
tomorrow.
on by. That means as you start the year, in that first quarter, see how you paint a picture for me, because this business is yours. Ideally, you can give me a rough estimate. Yes, it may not be that accurate, but since this is the provisional, we take what you have given us for the provisional, because when we go further, the law gives you time to keep on amending up to the last day of the financial year. So when we are starting business, we expect you to paint that simple picture for us and tell us, this is what I might anticipate in my business in terms of sales. So that's the picture we take, and whatever you anticipate, we pick tax on it in the course of the year. Because one might ask why we don't wait for the year to end. Ideally, your government needs the money. It may not wait until the end of the year. There are services that you may consume in the course of the year. So that is why the provisional is there, so that it keeps on getting these small bits and pieces of the revenue in the course of the year. So at the end of the year, that is when you actually paint the correct picture, because ideally this is not anticipation. You have the actuals. So as the year moves on, we expect you to paint that picture. At least give us a glimpse of what might happen in your business in terms of sales. We will move with that, then wait to see what will happen by the year when the year closes, and see whether actually it has been the right picture that you have painted.
Wow, that's amazing. So it doesn't really stick to only an individual.
Yes, it doesn't speak to an individual, because in registration where I started the journey, you could be trading as a non-individual, it could be a company, it could be a trust, and it could be a partnership where individuals come together. But ideally, why we are putting emphasis on the individual, because we are coming close to the first quarter, and the deadline for filing for the individual comes through the end of the first quarter. Yes, the non-individual expect the return, but we are still moving on the journey because the year is still young. For the non-individual, I expect that return by the end of the 6th month. By that time, I should have received your provisional return. But now, since we are just quarter way, that's why we are putting a lot of energy on the individual client to see that they do not go at fault with filing, because actually it may have some penalty, as we will see moving on in the discussion.
So Joy, who is really obliged to be filing these provisional returns?
Thank you very much, Jotham. Everybody who earns income ideally is supposed to file a return. However, we have some exemptions. So if you are an employee who is deducted pay by your employer and you have only one employer, you may not file this return. But any other person, whether individual or non-individual can be a company, it can be a circle, an association, a partnership, an NGO, you'll be required to file your return. We found that there are so many people who have just registered this week, this quarter, and believe they have not started operating. But remember, they got a TIN, and one of the obligations of getting a TIN is filing your returns as and when they are due. So our due date, we have said, like Hassa said, for individuals is 30th. If you have a default year of income, it is 30th September. So we are expecting everybody who has earned income in this year, if you are not, your income is not from one employer, and that employer deducts pay. If that employer deducts pay from you every month and that's your exclusive source of income, you don't have any other, then you may not need to file. Maybe also a non-resident who's deducted withholding tax as a final tax, that one doesn't have to file. So any others, that one who is in business, that one who is a director, a partner, a sole proprietor, a company, you are required to file this return as and when it is due. And for individuals, we are saying you should file it by 30th September, the last day of the 3rd month of your accounting date. So if you are this person who didn't apply for another year of income, which we call a substituted year, your due date is tomorrow.
Please throw more light on what is a substituted year.
A substituted year of income is any year which does not end, any period of 12 months which does not end on 30th June. For example, you could apply and say, I want to change mine from June to December. Let's say to start 1st January and it will end 31st December. That year which is not June is called a substituted year of income, but it's given upon application. You apply and give your reasons, then someone in our office will approve. Once it's approved, just know that you will file your provisional return if you're an individual by the last day of the 3rd month of your accounting year. So if you're a company, as Claire said, this company or NGO or CBO, any other non-individual should file their provisional returns by the last day of the 6th month. And our 6th month, if your year is the normal year of income, you has not applied to change, is 31st December for any non-individual. So we're expecting you to file that return. So if you have any income and you are not in those two categories, yes, we are expecting and waiting for your return. And maybe those ones who are below the thresholds that we shall look at, also you may not need to file this provisional return because you are below the threshold. Yes, for the individual, like the rent, we shall see that the rental person, if they are earning below 2.82 million, they don't have to pay. So they may not need to file this return if they are not registered and they don't have a TIN. Yes.
So as we've had, just to be clear, the deadline of filing the provisional return applies for both individual and non-individual. That is by 30th September, right?
If you're an individual and you've not changed that year. Okay, let's say by the last day of
let's say everything constant.
Yes, that is 30th September. the last day of the third month of your accounting year. So if you have a default one, it is this day, 30th September, tomorrow. So if you change to January, then yours was March. If you change from January to December, then yours was March. You should have filed your provisional return by that date.
So what happens to someone, Hafsa? What happens to someone who, let's say, they have made their registration today? Let's say tomorrow on the 30th of September, because someone has asked, okay, what happens if I register tomorrow?
Yes.
And when do I need to file my provisional return?
You file it on that same 30th and put a nil. Because ideally you have just started and there is nothing. So what happens with filing? We are not only looking for tax when you file. These returns are information documents that let us know. Because ideally you can even register effective tomorrow and you get some business on that very day. And maybe somebody pays you that same day. So what we need to know, what has happened at your end. So you need to close that gap in the system so that we are not prompted to estimate. So ideally, just file a nil and off you go. That is understandable, because when you've just opened shop, chances are you may not have income. You are not very clear with that picture because, I mean, you're just starting at that particular time. So that's why we need to just close the gap. Because when you file, I mean, it's not that you pay whenever you file. No. These are just information documents that draw a picture to us. One, it gives us an anticipation. What should we expect? If there's nothing much, then, I mean, we wait for the next Because ideally, when we're talking about filing by the 30th of September, the year is still moving. When I come to December, you might have filed by the 30th, but ideally you haven't paid all the amount as reflected in the return. So when the year keeps on moving, we keep on reminding you, say an individual, that when you filed your provisional, ideally you paid a quarter of the amount. So the second quarter has to come through by December. So it is a continuation of the whole activity.
Okay. Dear viewers, we are still continuing. Please keep the questions coming in. I think we have answered a few that at least have really come in handy. And someone has asked, what if I don't file a provisional return? What really happens to me? And in your estimates, how sure would you be of the estimates that you've made? Joria, you can.
Okay. So if you don't file your provisional return, normally we expect. Remember, we said in the previous webinars we've been having that in Uganda we run a self-declaration regime, and you are presumed to be correct and to be honest, unless proved otherwise. Yes. So if you have any information to prove that you didn't declare the right information, that's when we come in. So in this case, we expect you to file the return by the due date, and we presume you are honest in your declarations. You are going to declare everything the way it has transpired. So if by 30th September, that is tomorrow, you fail to file your return, you are giving liberty to URA to file for you by giving you a default assessment. So every time you fail to do something on your behalf, on your own self, you are telling URA, I failed to do it, maybe do it for me. So we issue a default assessment.
We don't even file for you. Let us be clear. Yes. We think for you a figure that comes through a default assessment. That means that gap in the system is still pending your return, because ideally I am not filing for you because it's on my duty, but I have to level the ground. That is one of the activities I need to do. That's why the default assessment comes in.
And this default assessment, we don't just wake up and say, okay, this is 200. Usually we can base on your previous returns and maybe add maybe a percentage of like 10%. We can also base on the industrial average, the industry you're in. We can also base on the information we have, third-party information we have. Maybe someone has declared in their previous returns. Maybe we've seen you in IFRIS of someone. Maybe we have seen you somewhere in KCCA, but you are declaring some other amounts which we are not seeing. So we can use that information to declare for you by issuing you a default assessment. And mainly because you have not filed this return by the due date, there is a penalty for late filing. And this penalty is 200,000 per month, or 20% of the liability, whichever is higher. So you have to be sure that you file this return. In case you don't do it yourself, but we are always there to guide you. That's when we come in to do the default and to give you the penalty because you have not filed by the due date. And of course, if you don't pay the money in the return by the due date, also the interest accrues until you clear that liability. Yes.
Okay. Now that we have understood, I believe our viewers have understood. Now that we have understood who is supposed to and when, the next question would be, what next after that provisional return? Okay, what next really? I've done. Hafsa, you can help us there.
Yes, you have played your part and filed the return. But what comes through? What have you painted in this return? Is there payment? When are you going to make it due? Because when I said by the 30th, I expect the payment to come through by the same day. That is what it is. But failure for the payment to come through on the same day as a whole, we can say if you're an individual, let us break it down in 4 quarters. To give you ease. As you're doing business, you get some payment. You're doing business, you get some payment. Provided that whole amount in the provisional return has to be realized within that year of income. Because we don't want confusion. You enter another year, yet there is a liability here. And at the end of the day, I'll tell you there is interest that has accrued. Then confusion comes, yet the year you're entering, I still need a provisional for that year. So that is the flexibility we do. So as you paint that picture, then we look at what the amount is that is payable, that provisional return. You can feel free and pay it at once, that is welcome. But in the event that it can't, we see how to break it down for you in 4 quarters to see that we keep on reminding you that maybe December we need the 2nd quarter payment, then March, then up to June. So that by the time I wrap up this year, then the picture is the correct one in terms of what you declared and probably what you filed. Notwithstanding the fact that this provisional can be amended in the course of the year. You might have drawn a picture for me by the 30th, but business is not static, it's dynamic. Something comes up and things keep on changing. Feel free to amend it as many times as you may feel, but within that course of the year. Say that by the 30th of June, before midnight, the position that I have will be final. Once it comes to midnight, ideally I'll take that position. Yes.
And remember, if you don't amend that return and maybe you increase, maybe that there was an increase in the income probably towards the end of the year. Maybe initially, when if you are declared maybe like 1 million and you realize towards the end of the year you have like 100 million, we encourage you to amend this return, because after you have filed the return, after you have filed the final return, the final return is supposed to be filed after the year has ended. So when you file this final return and realize that the amount in the final return is more than 90% of the estimate, there is a penalty. So we encourage you to amend. We have noted that you can actually towards the end of the year you will have known how much you have earned or how much you expect to earn, because that is towards June. You can amend as many times as you want, and remember the amendment of a return is subject to verification by an officer. It's not auto approved. So you amend with whatever reasons you have. So you can amend to reduce where you are avoiding to pay much tax, but you can also amend to increase to avoid the penalty.
Now,
for understating provisional tax.
Now, taking you back to that very question, by midnight, right?
Yes.
That's the statement.
Yes.
Now, what happens if if as a taxpayer I have found out that let's say I'm supposed to be earning 100 million, and by midnight maybe someone owed me some money and they pay and it comes way beyond what has been my final position. What would be the position of URA at that time, Hafsa?
By midnight, if you receive a signal of a payment, then definitely, if possible, what you would have done, the first thing is to amend and reflect it there. Yes, the payment may not come through immediately, but at least do the first thing of amending this return. Then at payment level, we can come and agree. How are you going to pay it? In installments? In what? Because we have the installment payment. It may not come through at that particular time because of various reasons. Yes, you might have got it and you feel you don't want to give it to us at once. Or you haven't even received it. That is okay. But once you file, you come through and tell us that this amount is payable, but I want to see how to give it to you in installments. Maybe 2, and we agree how it will come through. But you should note that when it comes after the time I expect it, it will be accompanied by an interest.
Okay, but also the other thing you should note that a revenue is not recognized when cash is received. It is only recognized when it has been earned. So you could have provided this service to that person, and this person, that's already the income you are expecting to earn or earned, much as the amount is not paid. It could be a trade receivable, some money you're demanding. But if you have provided a service within the year, that is already income earned, because revenue is recognized when it is earned, not when the payment is made. Yes.
Okay. I think now we are really getting a grip of what is really going on in the taxation arm. So, as a taxpayer, am I really obliged to pay before even earning? Let's say I'm expecting some money and I have some money with me, but I need to file immediately.
Yes, you can pay, because remember we said if you don't pay by the due date, interest starts accruing. Maybe you have challenges in submitting that return, you can still pay and file later. By the way, you have extension of filing. But once you apply for extension to file, we shall look at that. Once you apply for extension to file, this interest is not removed, is not waived. You will still have to pay the interest. So you can as well pay and file later and apply for extension. In case the due date, let's say you cannot file this return between now and tomorrow, you can apply for an extension today, but submit that amount to the bank. So you can pay that money in the bank, because it's allowed. It's reducing your liability. This return you have not yet filed. Already the expenses, you know them. The incomes you received, you know them. So you can as well pay the tax and file the return later.
But filing it later implies that you have applied for an extension, and we have approved the extension.
Yes.
That means you're planning well. Fine, you have given us the money to avoid the interest, but you've asked for an extension that we've approved, so that penalty doesn't come through. So ideally it's okay, because we manage personal ledgers where that money is posted. So once you make a payment indicating your TIN, then ideally it will go on your account, waiting for you to probably close it with a return. Because yes, we are here to mobilize revenue, but we need revenue that is substantial, that is substantiated with a document, and that's a return. Because if it was just paying, we would say, Jotham, give me 100,000. Joeria, give me 1 million. But what informs the million is that return. That is why we want you to complete the whole cycle by giving us that return at the end of it all. Yes.
Okay, Joeria, for a presumptive taxpayer, how have they been helped in regards to this provisional return filing? Because as some of the questions that are coming through, the Montuawasi, they are really lacking that knack of having to file these things, but they are willing to file and pay. But what help has really come through for them?
Okay, now for presumptive taxpayers, we have what we call a presumptive tax regime, and this one applies to people who are earning below 150 million. And we exclude, in the presumptive, we exclude the professionals, but at the same time, we exclude those who have other incomes like rent or property. So in this one, they designed a simple return called the presumptive tax return, where you just go and declare the income you expect to earn. By income, we mean the sales, the revenue, not the profit. You declare the sales, because this one was designed for people who used to find it very hard to file, to pay, to separate expenses, business expenses from their own businesses, from their private expenses. So they designed something very simple for them. This one is filed once a year, and you don't have to log into your TIN account with password. You just go to our website and generate a payment. You select income tax small business, and then it is once a year. Once you do that, you are done. So, but we encourage our taxpayers, because you may never know how much you are going to earn. So if possible, if you believe in this year you will not exceed 150 million, you can file a presumptive. But if you feel there's a possibility of you exceeding the 150 million, please file your provisional return. Because if you don't file this provisional return by tomorrow, and that is if you didn't change, the penalty will come in and it will affect you.
So is there a penalty for someone who files a provisional return that is higher than what they will actually? Let's say I anticipate 150 and I'm sure this year I must get the 150, but I end up with 70.
No, there's no penalty because you are allowed to amend this return.
But there is a penalty on one who
underdeclares.
Understates the provision.
When we come to receiving the final.
Yes.
Because the final depicts the actuals of what has happened in the year. Yet a provision is an assumption of what might happen. So ideally, we want the difference to be manageable. That's why we tell you ensure that your provisional and your final are in tandem. At least I expect in between 100 to 90%. But once it goes low, then there is a problem in what you declared ideally in the provisional. That is why we want you to be very clear when you are filing. And maybe the other thing we need to emphasize, we have clients who file under provision, under presumptive. But in the course of the year, you may get business to supply. And when you supply in excess of $1 million, whoever you supply to may be a designated withholding agent who is supposed to deduct 6%, leave it with themselves, and pay you 94% of the agreed amount of that transaction. Implying that they are creating a credit for you at the URS. So when you file through presumptive, one, you are not going to utilize the credit because the way we designed it for small businesses that we did not think or anticipate would even get contracts to supply. So ideally, that's how we designed it. So when you find yourself in such a dilemma, you need to come to us and we see how we can do a back-end job. For the other return you filed as a presumptive to appear like a normal payment so that it can give leeway for you to file the normal provisional return. Because ideally that credit has to be taken on as you're filing this final return so that you can benefit from it. So at times clients get confused. They file under presumptive, they pay. Again, you go and supply, they deduct. It's like we are taking more money from you in that same year. So the mechanism doesn't come out well. So that's where we needed to emphasize. Because when business comes, you will not say, I won't supply because I intend to file under presumptive. But at least you need to know how to manage it.
But even you who has not withheld from, who had filed as presumptive, but you realize that actually your income is above the 150 million, you can also come for we can come to us and do what she has explained. We make it a payment and then you file the normal return.
Oh, thank you, Joy and Hafsa. Dear taxpayers, our website is up and running. We believe, we pray that there are no glitches whatsoever. And I think, Rona, in that case, your question has been answered. The website is up and running. You can really file your returns. There is no problem whatsoever. And someone has asked a question. What there is a challenge with individual teens filing returns. I really want to ask, is there any challenge with that? Because it's complaining that they are facing a problem as individual taxpayers to file returns using their individual teams.
Is it a system problem?
That's
or
what
it
has
is
not
a
been
user
clear,
problem?
but
Because if it's a systems problem, ideally, it should be managed on our side, and we should be aware of trying to manage
which we
it.
believe it is
Exactly. But if it's
okay.
a user problem, maybe we would like to request them to get in touch with the nearest URA office so that they can be helped.
But also the most common issue that we are having with instant, being that the email address is not a must at application, and you know the passwords for logging in to file the returns are sent to the email address. Most of them don't receive the passwords. So what we are advising our taxpayers, especially those ones who applied without including the email address at instant team, go visit your nearest tax office and amend your team details to add your current email address so that you can receive the password to assist you log in and file your return. That is the most common issue that we are having with the individuals who applied with instant.
Okay, I think most of our questions have been answered. So someone asked, is there a penalty on non-compliance? Yes, there is, because as a country, we need these taxes to develop, and it would really hurt you and your business if the taxman would come and find that you're really wanting in your books or in the tax area. Where does one file a provisional income tax return? Where can they find that to carry out that task, Hafsa?
Ideally, all the returns are online. We operate at least 90 or 95% online applications.
95.
That is why we encourage them to visit the portal page on www.ura.go.ug. We are going the technology way, because definitely when you file manual, it will suggest that you need to look for us to bring the manual returns. I think we moved away from that particular arrangement. We are now doing it the technology way. You need to just get in touch with the nearest office. They can help handhold you, but doing it online. It's an online application that you need to do online and probably send to us so that you can meet your deadline.
Okay. So is there any advice for our taxpayers who are willing to file? Let's say, okay, someone doesn't have a computer, but they really want to do it. But however, despite the fact that we are encouraging they call it self-help, everyone can do it from where they are. So those that don't have that, what is your advice to them?
They can visit our nearest tax office for assistance. There's someone who will assist you, but request you to go with at least your records for us to be able to ascertain the amount you're going to declare. So visit the nearest tax office and our office staff will assist you file this return in case you don't have a computer. But if it's someone who is someone filing presumptive, just in case it's presumptive, not individual, that you can use your phone in case you have a smartphone. It's very simple. You can use your phone, you go to our website and just register payment for income tax small business, get a PRN, you go and pay, and that's
And
it.
by the way, the presumptive return doubles as a payment. You will have filed your return and will return a payment slip. So you are hitting two birds with one stone comfortably. So that is what we want our clients to know out there. You don't need to file, then go and try to generate. And by the way, when we return a payment slip, you can pay via mobile money. Things can be done at your comfort. Just imagine you're going to pay 200,000. Don't walk to the bank, because I
Use
said when
mobile
you
money.
file any return, what will return to you before you leave your screen? One is an acknowledgement,
And the
and the
payment.
second is a payment slip. On that payment slip, we have a payment registration number. Ideally, you use mobile money. Just put the money on your phone. If it's MTN, *165#, Airtel, *185#. You start the prompts that you're going to make a payment. Then these are taxes to URA. They'll ask for the payment registration number. It's exactly the 12-digit number on that
That you
slip.
put in.
Put it there. It will pick that amount on from your account, from your mobile money account.
So the rest is for you to put in the PIN and
Exactly.
You can also pay
Exactly.
by Payway. You can go to. You can pay by Mastercard, Visa. All those ones are simple. We have very many modes. So choose what is best for you. If the mobile money don't have, go to an agent and submit the money.
So in a nutshell, taxpayers, this has been a very delightful webinar, and they have really highlighted on the simplest ways that we can pay. Now there is mobile money, there is Payway, Visa, right? Visa, as in there is no way that a taxpayer has not really been helped, and I pray that as a taxpayer we really find it in ourselves to comply, to file our returns regardless of the businesses that we're having. As long as you're registered, feel free to go to the nearest agent banking, mobile money, put the money on there and pay. Thank you so much, Hafsa. It has
Maybe
really been
the clarity we needed to do, once you go in an internet cafe to be helped, ideally there will be a charge, because this person opens the cafe as a business. So you may not sit there for free to consume electricity and to do it for you. So that's the difference. So if you purely need a free service, you need to enter into a URA office, the nearest office to where you are. The service is done freely. But if you enter into an internet cafe, then ideally it may pick a particular value depending on how much units you have utilized from their account, and probably even the service itself. So we needed to make a difference in between the two, because you'll find somewhere in an internet cafe where they are telling you they offer URA services, but mark you that those services are not free. It's like even applying for a TIN. Once you go to a cafe, they are going to charge you because they are using their equipment, they pay rent, they pay utilities for that space. So ideally it can't come out free. So whenever you need a service that you know is free, it's ideal to enter into a URA service center to be helped.
But also, in case you need to help but you have the computer, you can send a WhatsApp to our WhatsApp number. Our contact center team is ready to serve you. Our WhatsApp number is 07721400. Send them a message and you get instant feedback. You can also send them an email in case that return fails to validate. They are ready to serve you. Our email is services@ura.go.ug. In case you have a query, you can also call on the toll-free 0800 11 7000, and our team will be ready to serve you and answer any queries that you may have.
Okay, someone has asked, if it is a provisional return, why is a taxpayer obliged to pay? You're obliged to pay because you're filing a return. Isn't it that simple?
And secondly, your government needs money in the course of the year. You're demanding a service. Where is the government getting the money? So in these provisional returns, in the monthly returns, that's where government picks the small and bits in revenue to see that its mandate can be met, as we wait for you for the other final picture at the end of the year. Because you will want the good road, you will want everything, but ideally government won't say that let us wait for end of year. In the final, as they pay, we also provide the service. Government continues to provide the service, even though it hasn't realized. It has to get away. And some of the ways are even internal borrowing. That is why certain clients ask, why does government borrow? But if you don't want government to borrow, I think you need to be part of the journey of mobilizing
Yes.
revenue domestically, so that we do not need to go elsewhere to look at it. But if you look at our target is about 23 trillion, and ideally we have a budget of 48. Where is the balance
Where is
going
the
to
balance
come
coming from?
Just imagine it's a simple case of borrowing, and there is nowhere you're going to borrow without interest. It is only one avenue I'm hearing where you can borrow without interest, and that's the Islamic banking that is soon
But you
coming
still have
here.
to pay back.
But you still have to pay back ideally.
On the very date you said you would bring back.
Exactly. So, on that note, I think we need to know that whenever you do not pay your taxes, it's a debt to government.
True.
And definitely government needs to get it back with interest, because one might ask, why does it get it back with interest? Are they doing business? Ideally, we are not doing business, so government is not doing business. But the fact that it paved way to offer particular services in the course of the year, it equally borrowed somewhere, and that somewhere came with interest. So ideally, in the same breath, you need to pay back with interest once we have given you a flexible plan of payment.
So taxpayers, I believe taxpayers need not fear URA, because if it is paying, URA has, you can talk to URA and they give you installment payments, which you as a person, you have to be faithful to fulfill in order not to again to accumulate penalties for again not fulfilling what you requested for.
But even besides that provisional tax that you've calculated to pay, you are allowed to pay it in installments. For an individual, there are 4 installments. That tax, that very tax that you've calculated, you've seen on your return, you are allowed to pay it in 4 installments that she talked about. And for the non-individual, you are allowed to pay it in 2 installments. And it's not casting tone that you submit everything in exactly, because you can decide to submit this amount every week. You can pay something every week, so that by the end of the quarter, you have paid the first installment.
Yes.
Then you maybe decide to pay every month, so that by the end of the second quarter, you have paid the second installment. So it's not saying that pay exactly this amount by this date. It's saying pay this amount in 4 installments if you're an individual, and if non-individual, in 2 installments. And they're saying pay it by that, then pay it on that date. It's by that date, meaning you have the 6 months to keep submitting this amount to URA, so that by that date, the first installment you have cleared.
Okay. As a director in more than one company, I am supposed to file provisional returns, including payee, to be earned for that year of income. I do file the provisional return and pay, excluding payee, which will reflect in the company monthly pay returns. However, the provisional pay liability stays on my ledger and takes months to be updated, hence being denied the TCCs.
Thank you very much.
On grounds of pay liability.
Exactly. You are an individual. Then you have filed because ideally you might be getting some either dividends or whatever. But you said pay as you earn. If you're a director, you're not the one who files the pay as you earn. Pay as you earn is charged on the company.
Yes.
Because you have other employees that you need to cater for in that same return. So what is directly charged on you as an individual are your individual returns. So if they decided you will be in the employee arrangement where you're getting salary, well and good, the company has to reflect you there against what you get and what they've deducted from you. And the company needs to be paying it promptly every end of month by the 15th. So ideally, when it comes to tax clearance and you need to prove yourself, you have proof that you have paid. At times, yes, it could happen when our ledgers are not up to date, but they are up to date to a certain extent. You have proof that you have paid. We can balance a ledger as and when, because maybe by the time you filed, you hadn't paid. Then now you have paid. So we balance the ledger and see that these payments are actually reflected on your side. So with the ledger, it's just a matter of interpretation. How well are you interpreting it? You may be looking at it and looking at big figures, but once a figure is in negative, then ideally we do not expect anything from you. We have ideally received your money.
Now,
But also, before we encourage actually our employers to always ensure that they include the teams of their employees. Because if they include the teams of their employees, this credit is directly posted to your ledger. We don't have to first do reconciliation and post that credit that is put in the pay return. So the moment they include your team, when they're filing the return, this credit that is in the pay return is posted to your ledger as an individual. So as when you file your individual return, always this amount is there. You don't have to go and pay because it will update. And now we are moving to the web-based returns. These things you'll be seeing them automatically when you're filing.
now going back to this very question, if it is all to be clear,
Yes.
he has said he's a director of more than one company, meaning his company has to pay to the employees. Therefore, he's not getting TCCs because there is a liability
In the company X,
yes
somewhere.
of payee. I think that has been sorted by your answers, because he might be thinking that the pay is upon him, but it's upon those very companies that he is a director of. And if any of them has a liability of payee, definitely they have to first clear the liability before getting a TCC. And I think that has been answered. Hafsa, you have something?
Yes, and maybe with a tax clearance certificate, because he has a number of companies, he may be compliant with maybe 2, but the other one is still staggering. So when we are looking at you, when you need a tax clearance certificate, we do a 360 degrees check. So I want to see you somewhere in compliance. Yet you may be good here, but here we are still not the best.
Having problems.
So we want you to clearly mention. Maybe the remarks may not have been clear to them, because ideally we are meant to put remarks that are informative. I tell you your compliance in company this is still wanting. However, for A and B, we are up to date. Kindly update this so that you know where the pain is.
Okay. Thank you so much, viewers, and thank you so much, my colleagues, Hafsa and Joeria. It has really been interesting, and I think we have really gained some good experience in these things. I pray and wish you a very beautiful day, and hope that you keep bringing in the questions, because URA is always open, our doors are open, and our websites, social media handles, everything is available for you to push in the questions, and the answers will be readily available. I wish you a very beautiful day. Thank you for joining us. Have a good afternoon.